therefore the office went away. So that's just a sidelight. We have programs, and if you look at the publication, and the reason why I thought I'd use the publication as the basis for my presentation is it really provides you a pretty good summary of what we do, or at least what we did in this past year. I prepare a similar publication of this every year, or at least have for many years. It's a summary, a brief summary of some of the highlights of our educational program in the county, who we are serving with those education and research programs, and some of the impacts. There are 4 primary programmatic areas that are served out of the Clackamas County Extension Office, and they actually begin on page 6 and 7. There's 4 different programmatic areas. One is forestry, natural resources. You're probably aware that Oregon has some of the most prolific forest resources in the United States. In fact, about 25% of all the standing timber, I'll say that again because most people say you've got that wrong. 25% of all the standing timber in the United States is in Oregon. We are the wood basket of the world. And so we have programs that traditionally serve all of the woodland owner community, and the beautiful Douglas fir trees right out the window are an example of that. We have over 4,000 private individuals like you and me that own forest land in this county. So you see some of the flavor of our education programs and research that we do to serve the needs of those in Clackamas County. And then if you flip over to page 11 and 12 and 13, you get a little snapshot in 14 for what we call family community health. Those are all of our programs that focus on that subject area, which used to be in the old days, and I see a few folks with gray hair like me, at least the guys. It used to be called home economics. Well, now it's called family community health. It's the kind of programming that really addresses the needs of families. A big focus of it right now for us is in the area of food and nutrition, healthy living, reducing things like childhood obesity. So we have very active programs throughout the county working in those areas. Beginning on page 15 is a program that most people know all about by at least the name, but don't necessarily associate it with the university. It's called 4-H. It's the largest youth development program in the United States, and it is the university's, it is Extension's youth development program. We started it over 100 years ago as a way, interestingly enough, and this is kind of a best kept secret, we don't advertise it, we did it as a way to reach the adults because the early faculty and staff that worked in Extension nationwide realized how difficult it is to change the behaviors of older people, the adults. And so they thought, well, okay, we need to bring better farming practices into the community. We need to change attitudes about this or about that. And so a good way to do it is to help kids learn and do that with their parents. So the parents, if you know 4-H, serve as the leaders. We educate the parents to lead the clubs. The kids then are the beneficiaries of the education and learning the newest in technology and practices. And then beginning on page 19, our 4th program that serves Clackamas County is Community Urban Horticulture. If you've ever heard of Master Gardeners, those are our volunteers. We created, in fact, Clackamas County, you may not know this, another factoid, is the home of the original Master Gardener program in the entire state of Oregon. The Master Gardener program began nationwide in Washington state, and a couple of years after it was first launched there, we had an Extension faculty member in the Oregon City office who said, gee, we need that here. Gray Thompson was his name. He was working at that time, interestingly enough, with the city of Gladstone and the mayor and the city council, who back in the 70s said, you know, we ought to start this idea of community gardens. And that's how we got started in the Master Gardener program in Clackamas County. I don't know, did anybody go to the Master Gardener Spring Fair last Saturday and Sunday in Canby?
My wife did.
Yeah. Most people nowadays try to avoid it because there's so many people. There'll be 15 to 17,000 people on a weekend, but it is the premier garden show of its kind in the entire Pacific Northwest, right here in Clackamas County. So that's just a snapshot of the programs and activities that we have out of the Extension Office in Oregon City. The back part of your booklet, starting on page 21, is the other programmatic area, the fifth program, which is served at the out of our North Willamette Research and Extension Center. That's in Aurora. That's all of our programming in agriculture. When Extension started back 100 years ago, the base programs was agriculture and home economics. It was about helping people living on the land learn better practices to be able to more productively manage their land and make a living. And because in those days, most of the gals were at home with children, we also had programs focused on helping them in all the family matters of the day. And quite frankly, it was pretty basic stuff, like how to keep your food safe when you didn't have a lot of refrigeration. This is early 1900s. Food preservation was a huge part of what we did then and still do today. The University Extension Service across the United States is the national repository for the latest science-based information on food preservation. So we still do some of those core programs. We obviously still serve agriculture. Agriculture is a huge part of Oregon's economy. You may realize that about 20% of the state's entire economy, the gross domestic product here in the state, is based in agriculture. 15% of the state's entire workforce. And of all of the counties, in terms of the farm gate, that's the product value that's sold by farmers, Clackamas County is usually the third largest in the entire state. And sometimes we've been even higher. This is the heart and soul of where agriculture is. In fact, I am also the director at the North Willamette Research Extension Center. If you haven't been down there, it's across the road from Charbonneau. You know the Charbonneau exit 282, depending which direction you're going, B or just 282. Anyway, come east a mile off the freeway, you'll see a 160-acre research farm, and I manage that facility with almost 50-some faculty and staff that work out of there. We do all the cutting-edge research. We're the only research center for agriculture in the entire Willamette Valley, and a 40-mile radius around that center will catch about 50% of the state's entire farm gate value. In other words, the value of all the agricultural products grown in Oregon. So there's a few pages that talk about those programs as well, because it is such an important part of our economy. Another factoid. I love factoids because it might be the kind of thing you might remember at the end of the day rather than the lecture. The original experiment station for agriculture in Clackamas County was in what's called the Red Soils Government Campus. Back prior to 1962, and I don't know how many remember back that far or were in this area, that was all, that entire Red Soils area, before it was ever developed, was a big agricultural farm. It was called the Red Soils Experimental Farm of Oregon State University. Actually, it wasn't Oregon State University in the day, it was Oregon State College. It began in the depth of the Depression when the county commissioners said to the university, boy, we really need somebody to help these people living on the land so they can make a living and survive during these really tough times. That was the beginning, and it served in that location until 1957, and their real focus was on how to grow crops on red soil. That's hence the name Red Soils Campus. You've noticed it's Jory soil, it's red. It's a clay loam. Wonderful soil for growing trees, not particularly good for growing agricultural crops. And in 1957, my counterpart, who was a director at the center at that time, the research center, sent a letter to the county commissioners and the president of the university and said, look, we've been here for 25 years. We figured it out. And the answer is no, you can't be a farmer on red soil. So he suggested they close the center down and recommended that the county consider buying land with black soil down in the valley. And hence, the county went and purchased 2 80-acre farms. That's the current site for North Willamette Research and Extension Center. A little bit of history most people don't know. That's kind of in a nutshell who we are. The only other thing I would close by and then open it up to your questions, we're going through a lot of change. Organizations always do. I'm going to retire. I'm now approaching the end of what will be my 42nd year with Oregon State University on the faculty. And it's time for me to hustle on down the road. The other thing that we are involved in, and I hope to bring to fruition, or at least get as close as I can, is on page 3. And that kind of is of special interest maybe to neighborhood associations and groups here in the community. We have an application in right now with City of Oregon City for a land use approval to build a new extension office on the Red Soils campus, right out in the southeast corner of Warner Milne Road and Beaver Creek Road. That's at open field. That's always been an open field since the time it was a ag center, ag farm. The city is now looking at that application on April 9th here a few weeks ago. They deemed the application complete. And so we're now waiting to see if they'll approve it or what next steps. We have a private fundraising campaign in place to raise some of the funds that'll be necessary to build it and move in debt-free. That's our goal. It will transform our operation in the sense that right now, for the last 35 years, we've been in a building with about 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, and the new building will have 22,000 square feet. We'll be able to grow the programs out for the next 100 years. That's the goal. There'll be a major teaching kitchen there that we don't have now. There'll be a major educational facility conference center. There'll be a major outdoor facilities, outdoor education pavilion, teaching greenhouse, a variety of elements that we've never had. So anyway, that's the other thing I just wanted to share. It tells all about it pretty much on page 3, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Good.
Yes, Vern.
Yeah, I'm surprised you've made it through this in your 42-year history in Clackamas County without mentioning Christmas Tree School, which was I don't know if you're still there. I find it hard. You probably have to retire to get away from it. But you say a few words about the length of service, and there's some interesting facts in there on of all the Christmas trees produced in the United States, what large percentage comes out of Clackamas County. And I don't have those numbers on the top of my head, but I'm sure you would do. So if you could say a few words around that.
I'll dig them out for you. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Vern, for bringing that up. But yeah, I haven't really talked about my background that much in program, but I came here originally as an extension agent, field extension agent, and that's what I did from 1985 until I got kind of pulled into some of the administrative stuff in 1999. But really up until just about 5 years ago, I was in charge of the county's extensions forestry and natural resources program, which happened to include Christmas trees. When I came here in 1985, Christmas tree industry was red hot and rolling. In fact, it was the Tax Simplification Act, if you remember that, of 1986 in the Reagan era, that really changed the landscape for a lot of ag businesses that no longer could claim some of the tax advantages they had. Christmas trees was one of those. It was a growing time in the industry to the point where in the late 70s, Oregon was growing a lot of Christmas trees, but we were not the leader in production. That was Michigan. In 1978, Oregon became the #1 Christmas tree producing state in the country. We always had the best quality trees. And I led that effort in research and education for over 30 years. And part of what we have been able to do here is develop a very large industry. About 25% of all the Christmas trees produced in the United States are grown here in Oregon. And Clackamas County is the largest producing county of all the counties. There's really about 3 counties that produce almost all of that production from Oregon, 3 or 4 counties. And so about 1 in every 10 trees, I tell people, in the United States at the holiday time will come from Clackamas County. So we're very proud of that. There's no county that produces more trees, Christmas trees. In fact, there's only 2 states that grow more trees than Clackamas County. One is Oregon, because there's other big counties. And then the other state that has a larger production than Clackamas County is North Carolina. We're second to none. So part of what I did during my time here was start an event called Tree School, which is the largest one-day educational program for woodland owners in the United States and has been for about 30 years. And we have Christmas tree programming as a huge part of that every year. We just had Tree School in March. It's always in spring break. It's in Oregon City at Clackamas Community College. And this year we signed up 650 people to attend a one-day program. 400 of those signed up within the first 3 days. So that's the kind of demand and interest there is for that program. Other questions? Thank you, Vern.
I have a question.
Sure.
4-H is near and dear to my heart. Where is the current camp being held for Clackamas
4-H summer camp?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. For many years, it was down at Camp Adams. Mm-hmm. And then time does fly. I'm going to say about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, they moved it to the 4-H Center in Salem. Just a better facility, larger, could accommodate more kids. And the problem we ran into, quite frankly, is that our program has grown to the point where we outgrew Camp Adams. So that's where we've been for about the last 7 or 8 years, and it's worked out well. There are a couple of kind of significant events like that. There's another one down on campus every year called Summer Week, and that's been going on for many, many years. And Clackamas County usually has the largest number of kids that attend Summer Week. They go down for a whole week and have
OSU.
kind of a campus experience and take classes and learn all about, it's for high school age kids. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yeah.
My question was, it sounds like you'll be working a little bit with the high school in terms of possibly having options because they offer AP science, and would there be opportunities for the students at the high school be able to kind of do some labs there? Or?
Well, yes and no, not in traditional classes.
Right.
Extension is non-credit coursework. Or coursework, and I put parentheses around that. It's non-credit education. So it's meant to be kind of the opposite side of the traditional part of what universities do, where they offer classes for so many credits and you go so many days a week, and it matriculates eventually into a degree or a certificate or something. And extension was always designed to be informal education, designed for the people, by the people. So we really take seriously the idea of kind of working in the community. That's why we have people that live and work here, and being in touch with the community, determine what the needs are, what those educational opportunities are. And a lot of what we do is more episodic. It's a one-day class or a tour or a demonstration, or maybe it's 3 or 4 sessions or a week-long group of classes, but doesn't usually, rarely ends in some kind of credit.
Oh, not necessarily credit, but just the opportunity that maybe the high school can work there on a particular class. Or...
That's the other thing I was going to highlight. You're exactly right. More internships or experiences that we can provide. And of course, we do a lot of that, especially through 4-H. We provide quite a few opportunities for leadership development, within the 4-H program, giving kids an opportunity to not only be a leader with their peers, but also to, do some skill development with them, teach classes with them, et cetera. A lot of opportunity that way. Also, in our volunteer programs across Extension, we think of 4-H being our major volunteer program, and it is, but we also have volunteer opportunities through the Master Gardener program, obviously, through the Forestry Natural Resources program, through Family Community Help. And there's ways where kids that are interested in any of those topic areas certainly could be involved. And I think when we have the new facility and a significant teaching kitchen, we'll be able to do a lot more food preparation, educational work for both youth as well as adults.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
How does a person get involved with being a master gardener?
There is a required training, and it's once a year, and that training usually begins the first week of February and ends right as we get to spring break. So they just completed the training. We manage here at the Clackamas County Extension Office the Master Gardener program for the entire metro area. Again, there isn't an extension office in Multnomah County, so they can't be there. And Washington County didn't really have room for the program a number of years ago, so we moved them into Clackamas Extension. And so it's managed from our office, and we have a training site in Clackamas County, in Multnomah County, and in Washington County. And so you would sign up through the program. This past session, just ending in March, we had about 40 trainees, and that's a decent number. We've sometimes had more and sometimes had less, but that's kind of maybe a ballpark number. And they finished their training, which is about 7 weeks, and now they are interning in the Master Gardener Clinic, which is our public clinic in the Extension office, and we have service to the community 5 days a week, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions on any topic? I'll try to answer them, and if not, I'll make it sound like I have an answer.
In Michigan, they had a program for junior master gardeners.
Mm-hmm.
Is there still such a program here?
Yeah, although quite frankly, it's not as developed as it could be. We do have a small junior master gardener program. We actually do quite a few things with kids, but we don't have as robust a junior master gardener program as we could or should. And quite frankly, it's a function of our volunteer corps and how many folks, really, want to put their volunteer service and time there. But there are volunteer opportunities through the Master Gardener program for youth. The other thing that we do probably more of in Clackamas County, because there's more of an interest and demand for it, is school gardens. And so our Master Gardeners are working in a number of schools throughout the county, helping teachers and students with school gardening projects. Those have gotten really popular in the last 10 years. In fact, we built an entire curriculum for school teachers in that area. Other questions? How many have been up to the extension office in Oregon City? Anyone? I knew Vern had. Yeah, okay, good. So you know where we're at. If everything goes well with the building, fingers crossed, we could be breaking ground very, very optimistically would be late this summer, trying to get groundwork done before it gets too wet. Just because things never happen as quickly, I've learned in this business, as I might like to think. More realistically, maybe it'll be a groundbreaking in spring of 20. And we, as you will note when you read the article, I'm especially excited about the building because being a forester by training, I always wanted a wood building. So this will be a all wood, advanced wood technology building. So if you're following, construction much at all, you've noticed they're building a lot of high rises in downtown Portland area, multi-story buildings, all out of wood now instead of concrete, glass, and steel, which is what we've always said they had to be. Now we've learned how to build them out of timber, which is huge for those of us, again, that are in a place where trees grow. And it's a big part of our economy. So we're going to be building an advanced wood technology building. It will be state-of-the-art. Cross-laminated timber is one of the products you hear about, mass plywood. And then in addition to that, besides being all wood, it will also be the first public building in Clackamas County that's what they call net zero. So it will literally generate all of its own electrical needs, power needs. Do that with about 286, I think it's 286 solar panels on the roof, super insulated, oriented north-south to minimize the heat load, utilize the water runoff off the roof, capture that, use it for irrigation around the property, and also use it to flush the toilets. So anyway, that's what we're trying to get accomplished. Yeah.
Cross-laminated timbers, and there's more buildings starting to use that technology now in and around the metro area.
Mm-hmm.
Two that kind of come to mind is a credit union over in Washington County.
That's right.
And,
Hillsborough, I think, right?
Yeah, it's over in Hillsborough, alongside the airport there someplace.
I've heard about it. I haven't been there, but I've seen pictures. It's quite a building.
And I think, unless I fell asleep and woke up during one of these videos where you watch the city commission meeting and you doze off and all of a sudden they talk
At 2
about
in the morning.
I think the Oregon City Police Department is going to use some cross-laminated products. Did I hear that correctly, or?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I know they are talking about the county commissioners wanted us to get this building built first so we could kind of see how it came together. But they're planning to put cross-laminated timber in the new courthouse, the new county courthouse up in Red Soils. It's now in the very preliminary stages, but it's out there. There have been several multi-story buildings in downtown Portland, more in the Pearl area, that are using cross-laminated timber. I believe one of the buildings will be 12 stories high, so not a small building. There's also one over in the Albina area that I think is 3 or 4 stories. So there are several. In fact, I'd say of all locations in the United States, Portland has kind of become a hub for that construction. And I know our county commissioners here in Clackamas are especially intrigued and want to develop a cross-laminated timber manufacturing industry here in the county.
And it kind of makes sense that, from what you said earlier, the amount of timber that we produce in Oregon, are there forecasts, predictions, or projections as to what this may do for timber consumption in the state of Oregon over the next 20, 25 years? Is it going to be a tremendous increase in using our own product that we can renew?
I think that's obviously that makes sense to all of us. There's a couple of parts of that are kind of intriguing to me. Oregon is the home to the largest amount of Douglas fir growing in the entire country. In fact, Douglas fir only really grows in the Northwest. So if it's not Oregon, Washington, and maybe some in, Alaska or Southeast Alaska, Northern California, there really isn't. I mean, these are the 2 states. Douglas fir is the most valuable wood, and the most valuable wood in the world. There's nothing that comes close to it, and it is the primary component of any construction manufacturing. So it is what you use to build structural members out of. So we are perfectly positioned. Now, as far as supply, I haven't seen supply data. I'm sure it's out there. But I think the answer to the question, Vern, is more tied up in kind of how much land is going to be available to produce timber on. In the Spotted Owl You might remember back in the 90s, early 90s, when spotted owl became the issue of the day. That pretty much changed how the Forest Service manages their land. 60% of all the forest land in the state of Oregon, 60%, almost 2/3, is owned by the federal government. And there's very little production really from that as a result of protecting the land for other amenity values. So most of the production that is used in manufacturing today comes off of private land. That would either be industrial land or private individuals like you and me, those 4,000 people in Clackamas County. So I think there's where the huge opportunity is. That's where the future will be, is providing more and more market opportunity for people that grow wood privately and still can make decisions about how they want to manage it and how they want to harvest it. You got more probably than you wanted to know on that, but you got stuck with the forester guy tonight. Other questions? Okay. Happy to be here. Happy to come again. I'd be happy to leave a few of these, Christina here.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
there's a place maybe in the city where they could be gathered by other members of the
We'll
community.
put it right out at the front desk.
Thank you very much, and come anytime over to the extension office.
Thank
Happy
you.
retirement.
Well, it's out there a ways. It won't
Yeah.
be for another year. And I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the staff liaison update.
Sure. I have 4 updates. One, I mentioned in the staff report that a map of the Park Place meeting location at the Housing Authority was uploaded to the Park Place website, and it didn't save, so I checked today and it wasn't uploaded, so I will make sure it's re-uploaded. But it's a little map, that'll be a PDF on the Park Place website, in the city's website, but will show where the Park Place Neighbor Association meetings are in the Housing Authority property, because sounds like people have been confused with their guests or other people. So I will do that. 2, on your dais, you'll see a little 1-pager front and back, kind of basic planning info. Let's see, I gave all mine away. Denise, want to hold that up? Yep. So this is a sample. Pete Walter of our planning department put this together. We can personalize it for each neighborhood association and get your planner assigned information. And I can print out a bunch of copies for you to have, and you can just have in the sign-in for all your neighborhood association meetings if people are interested in how to get access. With all of these also have HTML links on them, so we can give you the digital version that you can have as well if you want to send those. So what I'd like tonight is, if either right now or kind of mull over by email, is there anything else you think would be helpful to add before I kind of personalize it and send it out? But this is a kind of a handy 2-pager when people are interested on where do I find things on the city website that are kind of the frequently asked questions, and that's what this 2-pager can do. So you can kind of provide these initial answers. So let me know if there's something you'd like me to add, or you don't have to do it now, but you can also email me as well. 3rd, May is Preservation Month, so happy Preservation Month, everybody. On Wednesday, the City Commission presented the Ruth Powers Preservation Award to the Gatkeys. They own 3 homes on 15th Street downtown between the old Spicer Brothers building and the Trails and Saloon, and they've been working on 2 of them. And so that award was given out by the Historic Review Board. They do it every May during May Preservation Month. So that was presented to the Gatkeys on Wednesday. 2 additional events that I'll probably send again by email is there's an archaeological discovery pub at the Midway Pub on May 30th at 7 p.m. And there's an archaeologist from the State Historic Preservation Office kind of giving a general overview talk about archaeological discoveries, new and old, and kind of what's up and new with archaeology in Oregon. And then this week, there is Municipal Elevator and McLaughlin Promenade Tours on Thursday, May 9th and Saturday, May 11th. And I believe, I don't have the sign up here, but if you're interested, I can send that sign up information to the city is partnering with Downtown Oregon City Association to lead tours of the elevator and the promenade to learn the background of both buildings and the promenade and how it was built, both how Dr. McLaughlin gave the promenade to the community, but then also the Works Progress Administration rock work that is there, as well as the grand staircase. So you can learn all about those two pieces of Oregon City's heritage.
Once again, the date?
Sure, I have Thursday, May 9th, and then Saturday, May 11th. And I'll get more information from Kelly Reed, our preservation planner, and I can send that out by email. And let's see, also at last month's meeting, there was some question about National Night Out. So I got a chance to learn more about the location and the timing for this summer. So National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships. It was started in 1983 and is put on by our police department. National Night Out is a nationwide program, and it's always the first Tuesday of August. So it's Tuesday, August 6th this year. And previously has been at the Mount Pleasant School. But with the construction of the community safety building, it's going to be moved to the Museum of the Oregon Territory this summer. And there is availability for the CIC to have a booth. We'll have city staff can put up the booth. In previous years, there was a map of neighborhood associations, a big banner that says, what neighborhood association are you in? And when people came, what CSC members did when they volunteered is just generally be ambassadors about the neighborhood association system. So I think there was a sign-in sheet. So if let's say I just show up and I'm walking around, I think sometimes we've given out dum-dums, and Chair Wildheit has a bunch of smelly pins that she gets from her friends. So the kids always like the smelly pins, but people can learn what their neighborhood association, where their neighborhood association boundaries are. We have a takeaway information about contact information for each neighborhood, and people can put a little dot on the map to show where they are. So that's generally what you do in the National Night Out. So in previous years, we've had two shifts, first shift and a second shift. So the first shift would be 4:30 to 6:30. That would be partially set up and then kind of halfway through the event. And the second shift is 6:30 to kind of 8:45, just cleaning up. And I think we generally need about at least two, but ideally more for each shift. Staff can help. I work with Chair Wilhite to kind of bring all the banners and the poster boards and the sign-up sheets. So you just need to show up. And really, what your job is just to be ambassador. When people have questions about what's a neighborhood association, I belong to a homeowners association. Are they different? And you can kind of explain what the Oregon City Neighborhood Association program is and how they're not part of the city, but the city coordinates with them, and you're a member of the CIC and what you do as CIC. So really you're just ambassadors, and just encourage them to find their neighborhood association and sign up and get involved. So I have a sign-in sheet I'm going to pass around. Ideally we would have two per shift, but it would be great if we could have more than two people per shift. Any questions about National Night Out?
So we're not having neighborhood individual booths then? We'll all just
No,
have the
yeah,
CIC?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So you're just basically you're an ambassador of the neighborhood association system.
Okay.
And that's what the CIC has done in years past. If a neighborhood association wants to have their own, that's its own separate thing, but the CIC has always kind of manned a booth just to explain to the public, they're here are the neighborhood associations, get involved, here's some contact information.
From what I understand, speaking with Chris Wadsworth before she retired, was that the goal was to have all the neighborhood associations have a booth out there as well as the CIC. So you may want to inquire with, it's no longer Chris there, that's,
Yeah.
And I could dig through and get the lady's name, but I don't have it in front of me.
So that's a new piece of information. I did not know that.
They're from what I understand when I spoke with them, they scaled back all the vendor booths that we've had in the past, and they want mainly to be government kind of official type things like the neighborhood associations, CIC, stuff like that, planning maybe.
Okay, well, I'll make sure to pass on the information. I think there's still a good goal to have a CIC booth, just because for neighborhood associations that maybe aren't present, we can
Right.
kind of be the overall ambassadors of the
Yeah,
general
I'm not
system.
saying any exclusive of that. I'm just saying CIC plus the
Okay.
neighborhoods
Yeah.
is what the kind of we're aiming for from the impression I got from speaking with Chris.
Okay, well, I'll get connected up with who in the police department is doing
Yeah,
that.
I can dig through my notes and see if I can remember. It's the lady that is kind of filling in for her at the moment at the
Okay.
police chiefs meetings. I have worked the last couple of national nights out and will again at prefer the late shift as work doesn't always allow me to get there that early.
Well, that's all I have for my liaison update.
And I had one more thing. I didn't get, raise my hand fast enough.
Oh.
Back to the wall or the walk, we're doing the promenade walk.
Yeah.
Will the stairway be open from the rock slide damage? Will that
You
be
know,
open?
I don't know. I think that's a touch and go. I think that's a separate situation that just happened, parallel to this, which has been planned. So at the minimum, we'll sit and talk about it and look at it. And if
Okay.
it's open, then they'll walk through it. But I think Public Works will let us know. I don't think we can control that piece. Okay. And I think Kristen Brown's doing a pretty good job on social media to let the community know when it's open again. So definitely follow along, and when you hear it, pass it on to your neighbors. That's all I have.
Next on the agenda is the minutes from December 3rd.
Please sign up.
I think,
Here, if you want to send me a copy. Oh, if you want us to downstairs.
so as everybody's seen, had a chance to review. Yeah. No. We seem to have one copy.
Do you?
You can go online. Yes.
Trying to be slightly paper free.
What were the hours of the first shift?
How'd you get it to come in? I reviewed what they started.
6:30.
Documents? View? That's it. And then scroll down. You can roll it.
Well, I don't know, I highlighted it. I know, they're right here, yeah.
Pretty thorough. Well done.
This is just. Yeah. This, I don't have on the meeting notice, or the minutes of the,
So,
If anybody wants to make a motion or correction, if anybody has recommended corrections.
I move that we accept the minutes from last month.
I second. Moved by John, seconded by Dennis. We need an official vote or
Just raise
Just
the
take
hands, raise the
acclamation.
hands.
Yeah, I think for, minutes you can do a
Okay.
voice vote.
All in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Passes. So before we get into the general business, there's been a request to add an item 5C for discussion. And this is, transportation and growth management. So,
Vice Chair Van Haverbeek, I'd be happy to speak for 1 minute on the topic. That would be helpful.
okay,
So, Community Development Director,
well, that would be at C.
Yeah.
We're at 5A.
no, just to say before people vote to add it.
Okay.
I just want to explain what it is.
Okay.
Community Development Director, Laura Turway is applying for lots of grants this spring, to update our comprehensive plan and a future work program next year. And, some of the grants are due really close to the next June meeting. So she asked if this could be walked on. And so if the commission, CIC, moves to allow this to be added on, we can talk further about if this is ready to be adopted tonight or at later to be amended. But I think the request is to add it to the agenda to have the discussion.
Okay.
Probably need a vote to add the agenda item.
Hmm?
I think we need a vote to add the agenda item.
Okay. So we don't need a motion and second?
I think so.
I think we do. Okay.
I'll move that we add it.
Okay, Roy.
I'll second it.
Dennis? Okay.
All in favor?
Is this just?
Yeah.
Acclamation again? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, we add 5C. Okay, 5A is CIC roles and responsibilities. We need to sign up to attend other neighborhood association meetings. And Christina gave a lovely document that has all the upcoming meetings on it. So I think what we had agreed to was that everybody would try to attend 2 neighborhood meetings in a year outside their own neighborhood. So,
So you can pass around, you can put your name on this is like, Hollywood Squares, put your name on the box. And, I will, type it up and send it out to everybody, to indicate who has, volunteered to go to which neighborhood association meeting.
Can I, email you tomorrow with dates on that? I have a very busy calendar, and if I put the wrong date, I will have to answer to severe punishment from my better half.
Well, maybe you can put some tentative and then just confirm with me tomorrow,
Okay.
it's fine.
yeah, just sign up for all of them. Okay. 5B is, about chapter 1750, administration and procedures, neighborhood association meetings. Do we have a redlined copy, or
Yeah, I'm happy to provide a little background if that's helpful.
that would be great.
So, this email came from Chair Wilhite last week, a request to add this discussion item this evening. And, there's kind of 2 pieces to it. One, as part of the citywide code updates, I have a 1 hard copy here, and then the red line is attached to the agenda. So chapter 1750 in our municipal code is the, kind of procedures and administration chapter that kind of talks about what makes a type 1 land use decision, or a type 4, what goes to the planning commission, what goes to city commission, how do you appeal, how do you have neighborhood associations, all the process. And the city, the planning division proposed some amendments, nothing that changed our process, but provide more clarity. So sometimes we were silent on things, and we provide more clarity. So I don't think anything affects any of the neighborhood association meeting process. So you can take a look at that section. And I'll pass this around, but the one thing that Chair Wilhite would like to have a discussion on that could be an additional amendment, and this is where we are also pretty silent in our code, is there a maximum time period between when an applicant meets with a neighborhood association before, in a sense, that meeting expires? And there was some discussion. I don't think we have any strong recommendations, so the CIC can have that discussion. If there was kind of consensus by this group that you would like to make a recommendation to the City Commission about any proposed red line changes to the required neighborhood association procedures, I think staff would probably recommend that you have the expiration date be a year, because that's when our pre-application conferences are expired. So it would kind of line up together. So if someone expires out on their pre-application conference, they also expire out of their neighborhood association about the same time, rather than having them two offset. So that's one recommendation. If that's something the CIC wants to discuss. They don't, I think Chair Wilhite will be on by herself be making that recommendation at a future meeting's public comment, but she wanted to know, was this something that other neighborhood associations were interested in kind of pursuing themselves, or something the CIC wanted to make a formal motion on, and so forth. So right now in our city code, it just says, if you are doing the following things like conditional use or site plan design review, and others, zone change, you must meet with a neighborhood association, and then it gives the process, but it doesn't have an expiration date of that meeting. And so with Gaffney Lane, there was a situation she felt where the applicant met with the neighborhood association, but it was so long between when they met to when they turned in that everyone forgot. and maybe a lot of people, had changed who attended the neighborhood association meetings. And so there just wasn't that continuity of knowledge. And so that's the thing that she was requesting the CIC talk more about. So anything that comes out of this conversation this evening, I'm happy to pass on to Laura Turway. Or if you want to enable Chair Wilhite to make a formal comment at a future city commission meeting, those are all options that the CIC can do as a formal or informal recommendation.
I'm not sure I fully understand the whole thing, but I think it's talking about when an applicant comes before the neighborhood association with their proposed project, and they have already talked with staff on their pre-application and all that, and met that guideline, and then it goes to the neighborhood. And I guess after that, it gets a little foggier for me as to, and I think the question is, once they meet with the neighborhood, we're trying to put a time limit on, they must proceed forward with their application by a certain length of time, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or they have to meet again with the neighborhood association.
Or they have to represent.
Well, yes, and if they don't meet whatever that guideline is, then they have to go back through that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right now in the city, pre-application conference is expire 6 months, but I think in practice they generally expire after they hard expire after 1 year. So anybody that has had a pre-application conference and it's been a year, they have to apply again before they can move forward with their application.
As the meeting with the neighborhood association, at what point in the time frame does that take place?
It takes place after the pre-application conference, but before an application is deemed complete.
Well, could it just simply be tied to if you have to renew your pre-application, you have to redo it again?
That's what I think the key is. It's not, because it's unclear and very silent, it's hard for staff to say, you need to meet again. You know, it would be, I think what Amy's saying would be really helpful if it give very clear and directive, you know, time period that said, if it's been X time between this neighborhood association meeting and a complete application, you must meet again. And that would just give direction on, and for all parties, city, applicant, and the neighborhood association.
Can I add something? In Kanema, we, over a long period of time, we came up with a solution, relative to this, I believe, land use and people applying to, build or remodel. We created a land use person who is a liaison between the city and, codes and whatnot to get them to move forward. And, at every meeting, he speaks and he talks about the projects that are in process and lets those who are there at the meeting know the status. And I think that would be something I would recommend or pass on to Amy. And that, like, that's helped us a lot, where even in our small neighborhood, you know, you drive by and you wonder what has happened with a project. And there's so many variables and so many things that could happen in the course of even 6 months, where the applicant is finding contractors. He's beset with issues related to you know, digging or whatever. All kinds of problems can occur, and finding the means to get that to go forward. This person that we have now in Kanema is one who keeps everybody abreast of what's taking place, and I think it's been a benefit. And it assures the neighbors that, yes, it's going forward, and this is what they've had. Also, it encourages a sort of a communication that is taking place, and we know who's coming in, and they share in the meetings, and they are helped by the confidence that we're supporting them. So I don't know how you want to pass that on to Amy. I guess I can when I see her, but that would be something I think that would be an addition to helping the process be communicated to all concerned.
I mean, one potential code edit could just be, if you have to get a new pre-application conference, you have to have a new meeting. It could be as simple as that in our code. So it's, if that's something the neighborhood want to do, because once we require it, then we kind of put it on your shoulders where you have to decide with your bylaws, do you have to have the meeting? Can you choose to decline the meeting? You know, it's really on your, each neighborhood association bylaws on how that works.
But that could be a big expense if we're having a special meeting for someone to do that. We have to notify people, mail out postcards, whatever we do. That might be a huge expense as well.
And what is the process we want that applicant to go back through? Does he have to just go back and schedule it with the neighborhood, or does he have to, you know, it seems like we're getting some red tape involved here in a way that there's so many unknowns when he's through with the pre-app. They got a lot of work to do with their engineers and specialists and attorneys and all of that. And if it's a bigger project, I can see where it drags out for years probably. Are we trying to hold our feet to the fire, or is it just a paperwork checks and balance process that we want to know, is this ever going to continue, or is it, do we get the feedback that they're working on it, but they're having problems with whoever, the attorneys or the financing or whatever? The last thing they want to do at month 7 after the neighborhood association to say, oh, now we got to go back and do this thing. It seems, you know, I'm not sure that I've fully 100% committed to saying, yes, we'll do that. But I would stand on the other side of the line and say, well, let's not be so stringent. And if we do put a thing in there, give them a year or 2 years or a longer period of time to stay away from the hassle it creates for everybody.
But it seems like if they're making progress, if their application is complete and now
Well, no, this would be an incomplete application.
it's an incomplete application. So if their application is complete, they don't have to go back to this step. But if they haven't completed the application and now it's just been sitting there 6 months, a year,
Yep.
that's when they need to come back and at least say, yes, we are going to pick up where we left off. And the meetings in the neighborhood are not the detailed plans. It's just a requirement that says we met with them and discussed. So we have like 4 of them right now in Park Place that we think are just sitting there.
Oh, you're, without getting any name, the big one, it could be years before they come back with the next step.
Yeah.
And
So we had those pre-application meetings back in 2008. So have those expired?
Well, for Park Place, there'll be a subsequent master plan application, so there'll be a new round of pre-application
Right.
comprehensive and neighborhood meetings. I think, I don't have any direct recommendation. I think Chair Wilhite wanted to bring it up. She felt that in one situation, there was enough of a time lag that she was concerned. I don't have any specific recommendation. I think, what Mr. Johnson brings up, which is be careful what you put in a code because you can't change it. So I think what Chair Wilhite wanted to know tonight was the results of this discussion. Was there general agreement and consensus? Was there not? She was going to make her recommendation on behalf of her as an individual, and she wanted to know, is this something that the CIC would also be interested in talking, adding on to, or is this something that she should just move forward as an individual?
Well, before we make a decision here, I would like to hear what Amy had to say. And all of her recommendation.
Mm-hmm. So I think she's planning on going to a future city commission meeting, so it could be that she makes, one option could be she makes her comment in a city commission meeting in May, and then this is revisited in June, and the CIC can decide, how they want to address that.
And then we can decide whether we're going to support her concept.
Yeah, as a formal, is it a formal recommendation or not,
Right.
the CIC, whatever the recommendation is.
If I may interject. So I'm like Vern, a little baffled so we will hear more clearly from Amy, I guess, that, so she's gonna suggest a time frame under which
I don't know if she is. I think
No?
she's gonna, what she had in the email was she brought up an issue and she wanted to see if the CIC was interested and see, the CIC thought this was also an issue in their neighborhood associations and if there was a consensus on a recommendation moving forward.
I don't hear a motion.
Is there a big problem with people not following through? It's something that's, it's raised the issue because people are applying and they're just not doing anything.
So some of them that Amy brought up, one is the Cove. That's a big deal. But I think there's other issues involved in that rather than go back and represent.
The neighborhood association, yeah, I think that's
Right.
way down on the list of things to think about.
So back to my thing, I think it's the communication. If you have a project, small or large, and you have somebody in touch with the process from the city, and can relay that back to the community, there's gonna be less doubt or wonder about how it's progressing. And you will be informed, because of this liaison person, of issues that they're having to address for lack of time, or they've changed their mind, or they've gotten new, they have new thinking on the whole process because of obstacles that are put into their path. So I think I'm a little hesitant to like be for a time frame when in all cases they could be different in terms of scale, for one. You know, how large a project is it, where it's being put into place. Small little things within like our community, you know, it's basically it's a single resident. Maybe there's a cottage, we have a cottage development going on. So and there's people in our neighborhood who have wondered about that for a good many years, and it's gone through more than one issue, which we have luckily had a chance to like be informed about, and so we sort of have ridden it out. So I think communication and some kind of transference of like processes and time and how it's been satisfied in due course helps the neighborhood know and be more satisfied with that the applicant is sincere and is going to progress, or they've changed their mind and sold the property, which has happened too.
Happened a couple times.
Well, it could be something as simple as, you know, you do your initial presentation to the neighborhood communication, to the neighborhood association, and then at that point, whenever you need to change, you know, reapply or whatever, like, you just send a certified letter to the neighborhood association saying this is where we stand. Just make that a requirement instead of a whole meeting.
Yeah.
And that way the neighborhood knows what's going on.
So would it be possible for that land use liaison from Kenema to come before the CIC and explain the process that they have developed?
He travels a great deal.
Well, that's all right.
Well,
We could work around them.
yeah, his job is he works several weeks a month in Chicago.
That's fine. We
Yeah.
can have a road trip.
Well, he would be, I
Yeah.
know him, he's my neighbor. He would lay it out.
If you could put it together so
Yeah.
that we
So
can.
Dennis, if you want to talk to Ron and then coordinate with me, we'll see which next couple
Sure.
CIC
I-
meeting agendas
Don't you
might
think
work.
he, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
He would do it if
it's
he's
not
around.
a tricky thing he does. He communicates. He finds out what's in process, what's going on, what have been the obstacles. And what's good about it, we have found, I believe, is that you're more embracing of this new person coming into your community. And they are with you, that they sort of know the parameters of like, you know, what they have taken on. And they've learned a little bit about each neighbor's. And it's I think it works
And it's
better for both parties.
Accurate information.
Yeah, right.
Instead of
Not
just
hearsay,
gossip, hearsay.
Not
which
suspicions or
is
like, oh, they're
huge.
running
Yeah.
away. They really weren't serious. You know, all kinds of suppositions that don't apply. So it alleviates all that. So yeah, I'll ask of him if he'd like to present something.
So what I'm hearing kind of is, Amy will present in May on behalf of herself, and then, maybe have this conversation, in June as a recap and see if there's anything.
And in the
That comes out
interim,
of
I can talk to Ron and
Okay.
see how he would like to proceed, how he'd like to explain it.
It's around, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 5C.
All right. So the Oregon City's comprehensive plan is kind of the big picture policy document that actually filters down into lots of things. So whenever the city makes amendments to master plans or looks at zone changes or comprehensive plan map amendments, we look at how the policies of the comprehensive plan weigh in on that question. So it is land use based, but it also is a holistic kind of view of the city. So in 2004, we adopted our second comprehensive plan, and our first comprehensive plan was adopted in 1980 through 82. So time has passed. Since 2004, we have 3 new concept plan areas that were not there in 2004. We have a lot of new master plans, utility master plans, water, sewer, storm, transportation, that have all been updated, but we haven't checked back to see if our goals and policies should be amended as well. And so the city commission goal is to work on a comprehensive plan update process. And that sends Laura Turway, our community development director, applying for grants. And so we know community engagement is a big piece of a future comprehensive plan update. We want to make sure we really reach out to the wide demographics of Oregon City, bringing people who've never been involved in the process before, going to where people are, creating a kind of a community engagement kit that can empower citizens to reach out to other citizens. And that takes money and time. And so we're looking at applying for a couple of grants. The one letter you see here is a draft of a letter, and the Transportation Growth Management Program is a bit of a long plannery's word, but what that is Oregon Department of Transportation and the Development of Land Conservation Department put together a grant cycle that looks at the relationship between transportation and land use. So to kind of pull those monies together. And this is one of the grants that we'll be applying for. We hope to have kind of put together a package of money to move forward. And as you can imagine, community engagement being a big piece of the grant application, this is a great organization to support a grant application. We're looking at letters of support from Planning Commission, City Commission, Citizen Involvement Committee, and other groups to support the grant application. So what I have here in front of you is a sample letter that basically says, we support grants that help pay for community engagement, and kind of options for the city CIC tonight would be approve or as submitted or amended this letter, and I can send it back to Laura and have Steve or Amy sign it. Or you could provide additional edits or direction, and we could make those amendments and have Chair Wilhite sign it sometime in May. The grant application deadline is like 1 or 2 days after the June CIC meeting. So our goal was to walk this on just so we were not kind of pressed for time to get a support letter like a day or 2 before the grant is submitted. So there may be future grant application letters coming to the Citizen Involvement Committee as these grant cycles move forward this spring, but this is the first one, is the Transportation Growth Management. So you can read through the draft letter and let me know if A, you want to adopt the letter tonight with or without any amendments, or you just want to generally provide direction for staff to work with Chair Wilhite as we move through the different grant cycles. So I'm here to answer any questions, and you can read the letter.
Don't we want to see what the grant is? Or we're just saying we approve it, but we don't know what it is?
It's a certain amount of money to pay for the comprehensive plan update for the transportation and land use chapters of our comprehensive plan. So that grant application can pay for those 2 chapters of the comprehensive plan to be updated. So other grants we're looking for, so our goal is to get a grant package to look at the whole comprehensive plan in one goal. But a lot of grants, we were trying to put a bunch of grants together to have an actual budget that can accomplish what we're looking for, which is a pretty broad community outreach strategy. And so we're going to have to put together multiple grants. So this one is for transportation and land use, which is a piece of the comprehensive plan. There may be other grants that are just community outreach oriented. There might be other part of the grants that are more utility based. As you know, when you apply for grants, you find the piece of the grant that the granting agency is interested in, and our goal is to try to put a package of grants together to have a holistic view of our comprehensive plan. So if we receive these grants, we hope to start kind of general community engagement with about a year of the comprehensive plan update.
What are your dollar amounts? That's what she was asking.
Oh, I think we're trying to ask for $200,000 with TGM. I'm not in charge of the specific grant for this. I know it's probably a multi-$1,000, like $300,000, $500,000 grant to be able to do all the community engagement we need and hire this consultant staff to help us move this forward.
So that $500,000, is that the overview holistic? Or is it just this piece?
This is the transportation and land use piece.
Right.
And I can provide that information to the CIC via email when I confirm with Laura. I think we're applying for 200,000.
I just don't think we have enough information, but that's me, you know.
I just see it as, yes, I'm in favor of somebody else paying the city to get some changes made to their comprehensive plan process. And if there's a grant that would allow that to happen, I would be very much in favor of it.
Yeah, I think that we don't have the ability in-house with the 4 planners we have to be able to tackle a comprehensive plan update without additional grant funds. And so this is an ability for the city, who has noticed that it has been since 2004, and a lot of things have changed both demographically in the city as well as all of the amendments to our plans. And maybe our 2004 Oregon City Voice is not our 2019 Oregon City Voice, but we can't move forward unless we amend our comprehensive plan, because you look back legally to our goals and policies, and those are embedded in adopted comprehensive plan.
Any other discussion?
So this is really asking for a wider participation from CIC and individuals to say, yeah, we've heard of this grant program, we have a need for it, and it may be the grease that gets the wheels start moving by having more people buy into it.
Yes.
And with that, it seems like it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I think in the coming year, at least I will try to see what I can do to include all of you in the comprehensive plan update community outreach engagement process, both helping with our consultants and scoping and going out and becoming ambassadors and learning how to reach out to people who maybe we didn't reach out to in 2004. And they always say, go to where the people are. So, doing the audits of where do Oregon City people congregate on weekends? Where do we want to train ambassadors to ask the questions? So those are kind of things we'll be looking at this next year. And I hope to include and involve all of you.
The one thing I say is, like, is there enough here to the parties where you are seeking the grant? Is there enough information for them to see it valid for them to support this? I mean, it seems like we agree that to seek grants is a good thing, but we have no particulars. And you mentioned prior that then once we have this wonderful grant, then we can disseminate it and put it into practice. So you're asking of a body, an entity that you want this grant for these very needs, and they're going to go along with this without any specifics in terms of?
Well, no, there's a whole grant application
Well, other than
package.
transportation and growth management.
So there's a whole application package. These are letters of support. So the grant, whenever you are reviewing a grant, you want to know that your elected officials, planning commission, that you're all looking at one voice, that you want to move forward and look at, the project at hand.
So you're asking of the CIC if that's a good approach, correct?
Correct.
Right. Nothing more
Nothing
at
more
this point in time.
at this point. Once we receive the grant, then we would move forward in looking at what is our total package. Did we receive other grants? And then what kind of scope can we put together? And at that point, that's when we start to involve our city commission, looking at how that public outreach approach will be, kind of the timeline. But we have to get the grant first.
So what's our action they're asking right tonight? A buy-in on it?
Yeah.
Whether
Accept-
we
accept the letter.
wish to
Support that.
Which,
sign this document tonight,
In support.
in
Of seeking
support of
grants.
it, or if we want to put it off for a little bit. But it has to be done by the first week in June.
So there's urgency.
so
There's urgency.
we may not be meeting again
Before.
before it has to be done.
Correct.
We are, but it's like a day before, 2 days, so very, very
Right,
close,
right,
yeah.
But it's one of those things that's, I guess we're signing it, or us being asked to sign it because there's a need for it in two places, the transportation and the housing. We don't need a 400-page document tonight before we sign this. We say, it looks good from this point today, and if we once sign it, then there'll be some changes, tweaking on it, and by time it comes, but we've still kind of committed to it, and we shouldn't change our mind overnight without some reasons. It doesn't sound like it's asking for too much of a, just sign it and
I don't-
it indicates our support.
We're gonna submit the grant anyway, right, with our support?
Yeah, so we'd like lots of
Submit
letters of
anyway, just
support.
like For our support,
Yeah.
to back what the city's trying to do.
As far as I see, I try not to overthink stuff. They just want us, helping them along, saying we support it.
Yeah.
And I'm not educated enough to make any suggestions to changes, so I would approve it as is.
Do the
This
right
letter
thing.
looks good to me, but
Yeah, that's the way I see
I
it. It's
move
like-
that we approve this letter.
It's up to Laura and whoever's doing it to get all the paperwork filled out correctly and stuff like that, so.
Okay, so we have a motion, is there a second?
motion to,
Second.
and seconded,
Do you wanna call?
third, think.
Oh, we want to call it like, we have to vote this? I have to take a vote.
Real
Real. We're moving along. Kanema,
Go ahead, you vote.
that's a yay. Two Rivers, not here. Gaffney Lane?
What?
Yes, no?
We're Berkeley Hills.
Oh, yeah, excuse me, I said Gaffney Lane, they're not here. Park Place,
Yes,
Hillendale,
Yes,
Tower Vista,
Yes,
McLaughlin,
Aye.
Rivercrest, not here. Caulfield,
Yes.
Berkeley Hills, yes.
Abstain.
Abstain. Oh, okay. Passes.
All right. Like, ready for roundtable.
okay, roundtable. We'll start over here.
all right, Hillendale Neighborhood Association, last meeting we had was April 2nd. We had Officer Spencer Road give a police report. Dana Webb gave us a very good presentation on the Malala Avenue project. We had Sharon Salvaggio come through and speak on the pesticide-free. She did the CIC, the previous one before that. Then we had 3 candidates for the upcoming school board elections. Troy, I wish it could be my own writing, McLaughlin here. I think it's McLaughlin, Troy McLaughlin, Pamela White, and Anna Farmer. And they actually had a real good discussion on the school board and the responsibilities and what they would bring to it. So that was a pretty good meeting. Our next general meeting is July 2nd at our normal location to Living Hope Church. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on in our area.
and I'll pass, but I'll support Because we meet jointly. I agree.
We have, Kenema has lost our meeting place. We have been meeting at the, police, station up at the top of the hill. And with Chris Wadsworth being gone, we don't have anyone there to lock up the building. We did, lock up ourselves. We checked the restrooms to make sure no one was going to spend the night in there, and shut the door and called the officer to let him know that we had left the building. And so now we are desperately seeking another place to go. We have contacted the Oregon City Library because we know that McLaughlin meets there. And we were told that Kenema can't meet there. We're not part of the, neighborhood. McLaughlin can meet there because they're part of the neighborhood, but we can't meet there because we're not part of the neighborhood. So we're looking there, but, we're still working for other places to have meetings. We had worked at fire stations, but the same problem there is that homeless people go in. So we're looking, we had a place up at the church, the Methodist church, but, they had renewed our contract with the church fast enough, and so we were out of there, but we're just really searching for a place. So sign up, keep posted as to where we're gonna be meeting, because we're in the dithers, yeah.
Go for Feckin.
Well, but
Go
you
to the
know,
pub.
yes, that is a very good option, but, you know, that's like a 21 to be there. And so some of our members, we don't have an age, you have to be at least 18 to vote. So, in our bylaws, I believe, so that kind of cuts that thin as well.
It's the only public place that I know of in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
We have the same problem
You
with
do?
Park Place.
that's it.
Executive committee got together on April 22nd. All discussion was over the Beaver Creek concept thing, because we were at those meetings, and of course, that's gonna affect our area a lot. So we had a lot of discussion on that. I filled him in on some things we got on the last couple of CIC meetings, because our last neighborhood meeting was canceled because it was during spring break, and we couldn't get to the bus barn. So we're meeting again on the 29th of this month, get our neighborhood meeting, get on and just start going over stuff. That's kind of what's going on right now.
You want me to speak? We're Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association. We had, Holmes, Rose Farm come and present on, events that are gonna happen this summer and the history. We also had, Pest Free Gardens come and present. And we were talking about our neighborhood picnic and trying to build back our association to where we have a lot of neighbors involved and planning ahead, so.
Ditto,
There's two of them.
So Park Place, we had a steering committee meeting last month where we finally decided on our slate of candidates that we recommend for our officers, and we decided to stay the course. So we will have our elections at our next meeting on May 20th. So at the last meeting, there was a raucous discussion of the code amendments regarding the equitable housing. So that seems to be a big issue in the area right now. So we'll keep going, and then we need to find out which of the apartment complexes that have been presented to us are actually ongoing. So we'll need to figure that one out also. want me to do Rachel's now, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Since she was at the Budget Committee meeting tonight with everybody else in the city commission and staff. So Tony's there. And let's see, the Budget Committee is reviewing the proposed city budget for the next biennium. We look at the general operating budget, but also discuss where we'd like to allocate any discretionary funds toward priority projects and areas. Typically, the commission will look at its goals and priorities and try to ensure that the budget is in alignment with the goals priority. This process should be wrapped up. First meeting is tonight. Equitable housing code amendments. The project is close to reaching an end, but there are public comments are still being taken, and things to be settled are shelters, lot averaging, and others. See the commission agenda for details. I'm particularly interested in the CIC members voicing an opinion on the proposal to expand the 300-foot radius for public notices on land use application, either as a group recommendation or on your own. And dates of interest, May 27th, Memorial Day commemorative service at the Mountain View Cemetery at 10 a.m., honoring military, police, firefighters, and others that have gone before us. June 10th, from 5 to 7 is the Beaver Creek Road Concept Plan Open House in the Commission Chambers. And the groundbreaking is scheduled for the new police court facility is scheduled for late June. That's all she had.
From Kanema, I want to add to Linda. It is a matter of concern. I mean, one of the issues tonight was the sign up to attend neighborhood associations. Well, it's rather difficult if you don't know where you're going to meet and where that might be. It might even be a change of a date. The relevant issue to our little predicament is that we adjoin McLaughlin. And there's a lot of things that we share significantly together, historically, as well as other things. And we have also met at the library on a couple occasions, I believe. And we managed to turn the lights off, stack the chairs, and lock up. So for me, I was rather put off by the attitude that, well, they're a member in that neighborhood. Well, I consider myself a neighbor of the library. It's a public library. It's a community room that you reserve a spot for. And we have been, as Linda pointed out, we have met in the fire stations 15 and 16, the Methodist Church. And so we were pretty amiable about like figuring another location. But in this case, since we've already met there once or twice and managed to be responsible to it, I was sort of, again, put off by the attitude that like, well, they're the member and we're not. The other issue relative to process and workings, that the library closes at 6 o'clock. Okay, well, then you say, well, McLaughlin starts their meetings at 7. So, you know, it starts to become biased, and it seems to be a little bit privileged in a time when we're trying to bring neighborhoods together and to find a way to, you know, get the word out, get people to be involved. So I'm troubled. I don't know. I think we might, as a neighborhood, you know, ask again, and we might form a letter. I don't think it's a big arm wrestling thing. We have a neighborhood that meets 4 times a year for 2 hours. I don't think it's much to ask to share the community room that's adjoining us as a neighbor. And I know this body is not going to win that point, but I want the other neighborhoods to know that I think there should be, you know, some kind of, you know, some equity here and some common ground that seems to accommodate all of the neighborhoods not just some of the neighborhoods. And that's my little plea, and, but we'll go forward. Thank you.
I agree.
And you're from
I'm
McLaughlin?
from McLaughlin.
Right.
I was surprised to hear that. It's a city library.
Yep.
I know, I'm just
It's not
thinking,
a neighborhood library,
Was
it's a
it,
city library.
Hey, Dennis, was it, Mo, I think you talked to?
No,
over there?
it was from Denise.
Denise,
But, I mean, this is a person who's staffed and they've set up a policy of closing and I know they have to have somebody
Somebody there.
there.
Right.
But, as Linda pointed out, we've locked the police station. I think we could lock a library.
Yeah, so it wasn't the library that turned it down, it was Denise?
No, it was we had our chair,
She's at
she
the
works
library.
at the
we had a
library.
chair contact the library
I don't know.
for the
that's-
possibility of meeting there and we were denied. That's all. Sorry.
That is a different Denise.
Oh, okay.
There's a Denise that works at the library.
I thought,
And
In
they
the
have,
reservation.
I always thought it was
they have to have a person there when we're meeting there.
correct, but
and
isn't,
They can't be there after like 9 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Generally, meetings go till 9
Right.
or less.
I was just wondering if you'd gone all the way to the top of the library with, what's your
Yeah.
name, Mo,
No,
or whatever
we
it
didn't
is?
think we were trying to win a big case here. We were just asking a reach out.
Okay, well, sometimes
And-
maybe that's what you have to do.
And when we went and spoke in person, that was a day that Mo was not there. And so we didn't check her, is she in today, but I think we probably will go back. She had suggested we do the Pioneer Center, and that's not available to us because that has another group is meeting there that night, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, there's a fee. The Oregon, what is it?
Moot. Museum of
Moot.
Oregon Territory.
That's a fee.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about the swimming pool? They have a community room.
It's getting further and further away from the neighborhood.
What if I talk to our steering committee and propose that we send a letter of recommendation to let you use the library?
thank you.
We would appreciate
Thank
that.
you, we appreciate it.
Thank you. That would
As
be
a
very nice.
general question,
That would be very logical.
primarily to Christina,
Dennis.
is we have the new annex building, and there's a rather large room in there.
First Thursday.
Is that, on
Well,
the
we'll change, right?
table for possible use by neighborhoods?
I don't know for after hours. I can coordinate with Dennis to make sure the right people at the city are CC'd to this letter as well.
Well, I
Or just if,
I think this would help us out.
okay, and if there's other people, both in management and elected officials want to know, I can work with Dennis on that.
I appreciate it.
We'll get Denise and Griff
Yeah.
on it.
Thank you.
All right, I have.
Oh, wait, one more.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
So the McLaughlin neighborhood just met on May 2nd, and we have a new alternate member to the CIC that was voted in, and she has to be approved by the mayor, is that correct? And then she'll be up here with me. Yay. This Thursday, we are having a cake auction at the library. And we're calling it Let Them Eat Cake. And it's a fundraiser for the Buena Vista Clubhouse for the electricity to continue that project. There was a really nice article in the Oregon City News on the front page about the Buena Vista Clubhouse and the history of it, and it mentions our Let Them Eat Cake. So that was exciting. We had 5 school board members, school board candidates, come introduce themselves. We didn't get to have any kind of a discussion with them. They just got a 30-second plug. And let's see. We had an announcement that Providence Willamette Falls is going to be building a cancer oncology wing to the back of the hospital, and that'll be starting fairly soon, I guess. So that was exciting to hear. We did a 7th Street cleanup on April 6th, and we had support from Public Works. We picked up garbage and planted flowers in the planters. There has been some activity along the promenade with a group called Rivers of Life Youth. And Moot and the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association and Metro, have supported this project, and it's, been a grant from Metro, I believe, to do some weeding and some planting of native flowers along the bank side of, that'd be the west side of the promenade. And that is, continuing project. And then our main speaker was Mark Gamba, who's the mayor of Milwaukee. And he came and talked to us about how they put together a climate action plan for the city of Milwaukee. And it was a very involved, plan with a lot of public input. And they now have a climate action plan, with specific goals for what they hope to achieve. He pointed out that we have 11 years to turn it around before we're past the point of no return. And there's a Swedish girl that has been going around giving talks about how we don't need to have hope, we need to be afraid. We need to be running like our house is on fire to take care of this. Mr. Gamba said we need to put the same amount of effort into this nationally and worldwide as was put into the war effort for World War II, where everybody worked together and got it done. And what else? That was it. And I'll talk to our steering committee about finding you a place to have a meeting. Our meetings are the first Thursday of the month. So maybe that's why the library said you couldn't have
Ours
it.
are the third, we have different dates.
Okay. Oh, I don't understand. Yeah.
All right, so, oh, sorry.
But you forgot to mention about Waterette Park.
There's a plant sale and activities on Ladderette Park. Do you remember what day? The 18th could be right. Yeah. Ladderette Park is being developed, and there will be an opportunity to see the plans for what they're going to be doing there and buy some plants. It's before Mother's Day.
If you want to send it to me, I can pass it on my
Okay.
updates.
Thank you.
All right, just to recap what I have, I will provide updates on the elevator and promenade tours. Can I have the neighborhood association sign-up sheet? I'll take it with me.
Everything is right here.
Okay, and I'll send out what we have and we can fill in the missing pieces. The map for Park Place will get back online. And I will be sending out individual personalized planning division resource page for all the neighborhood associations. So you can have that as a digital document, which has all the FAQs, but has your actual planner that's been assigned to you and their contact information. And you can use however you like. And Dennis, if you continue working with me, if you need more context for city staff to resolve this issue
Great.
with the library.
Thank you.
And that is anything else you would like me to add onto my to-do list?
I think we're okay.
I wanted to bring something up real quick. I was kind of curious, our bylaws have it to where if someone has a disability, either mental or possibly an injury somewhere where it's not necessarily physical, that they can't, our bylaws right now make it obviously to where you have to be physically in a meeting to vote. I'm just curious if any other neighborhoods have dealt with this or how they proceeded with that before, like if you had someone who physically possibly had a reason, or not physically, but possibly an injury of some sort that's not physically on the outside and not able to come to a meeting, if anyone's addressed that.
In Kenema, we had it that if they had, whoever was not for a disability or I'm out of town and you wanted to vote on something, if you had made arrangements prior to the meeting with the, I believe it's the chairman, probably 10 days so that you could vote by phone.
Okay.
So everybody gets to hear what you vote, but we did that a time or two.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, just
you know, right now our bylaws don't allow that anyways. I was just kind of getting some feedback from y'all, so.
But it had to be made in advance. I
Yeah.
think we had, 10 days or so and,
Okay.
phone and they were on speakerphone, so they could hear what was happening, what they're actually voting on, what the issues are, how it was presented.
Okay. Sounds good. So thank you.
All right.
Anything else? Then we're adjourned.
So then
Thank you all.